But I do think maybe the speedrunning community might have a little insight into the fight, because I think their like RNG manipulation is a far bigger part of speedrunning in Final Fantasy X. So, for example, I have obviously seen a little bit of the whole speedrunning scene nowadays. And one of the ways in which, for example, the speedrun can be kind of made or broken is you pick up a no encounters armor from the Ghost in the Cabin of the Stolen Faith. And a lot of the run hinges on how quickly that happens. Like, do you get the encounter, and does it drop one? And obviously, over time, the speedrunners gradually learned how to manipulate the RNG and that kind of thing. And so they can set up like RNG manipulated runs in which you get that item as quickly as possible and that kind of thing. So yeah, Karifian's starting to explain some of how it works here. But it's like a whole aspect of Final Fantasy X I really have no deep knowledge about. The way the game's RNG works is that each cycle of everyone's idle animation advances the same RNG slot that determines which of his 3 moves Shinryu uses. The only thing you can really do is time your actions in such a way that the RNG lines up so that Shinryu only uses physicals until you get another turn. Each cycle of everyone's idle animation. So it literally, like, the RNG actually comes down to timing, but because of the way you fight and how quickly everything changes, it's not like as repeatable. Like, what kind of time slice do you have to get something that you quote unquote want? How does that even work? Not sure. Hey David and Nick, welcome to the stream. See you guys. Like, the way Karifian explained it, I'm kind of seeing like almost like a rolling slot machine while these guys are idling, and then depending on when you choose to take your action, that's where the slot machine stops. If you look at the screen now, let me slow it down. This is a good, like, interesting information for me. If you look at the screen now, Shinryu in particular, you can see it alternates between 2 different idle animation loops. So it's to do with Shinryu's animation loop. Every time one of his animations finishes, the game rolls RNG to determine which animation he does. Von Blood, yes, it is live. Welcome to the stream. Okay. Every time one of his animations finishes, the game rolls RNG to determine which animation he does. Sometimes he moves his head. Not as much. But does that mean that, like... But I guess, again, because RNG, you can't... There's no way of telling what move it could be doing, because... based on, like, how it's moving, right? Hey, Strife13, welcome to the stream. I'll continue plugging away while Karifian continues to drop knowledge. I'll speed it up again. No, it's a completely arbitrary string of numbers. Okay. You would have to somehow track where in this string of numbers you are, and find the exact right timing, so the exact right amount of numbers advance, to make him use physical attacks when his turn comes. That's insane. Remember when you did that for attacker? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny that Final Fantasy VIII attack only was so fascinating. For anyone who hasn't seen it, I strongly recommend it. Like, literally, of all the attack only series I've done, if there's only one that you have time to watch or the interest in watching, check out the Final Fantasy VIII one. That's the one where the most interesting things happened, and I learned a lot about the game. And we discovered some stuff that was almost pretty much like not known at all until then. So it was very, very cool. It's funny, though, because if that RNG thing that Karifian talked about was doable, it's funny how, as he says, it's still insane, but it's almost a completely different challenge then. Kind of weird. When a character shatters, do they vanish from the far plane editor? I'll have a look. The next time someone gets shattered, which I'm sure won't be too long. Yeah, it would be this like insane kind of precision timing kind of run. If you had the RNG stuff like mapped out and doable. Yeah, like almost task percent. Yeah, I agree. Is Shinryu an undead or just a high-level arena monster? This is the high-level arena monster. It's not Evere Altana, which is the undead storyline boss. I wish it was, but it's not. That's why I'm trying to understand, like, how much timing are we actually talking? And well, it would be one of 3 options, no? So it's like 1 in 3 options across a second. Does that mean you have a third of a second for each one? I'm not sure. Every character has the same thing going on though, so it's actually 4 people contributing to advancing the RNG string. So there you go. That's why it's still insane. But let's check. Francisco wanted to know what happens if someone gets shattered. Yeah, Waka, I mean, I can still see him. He shows his KO. And his stat just shows current HP 0. What if I KO him? Let's see. What does that even do? I don't think you can. So I ticked off the KO thing, but I don't think he's there. Well, maybe he is, but he's invisible now. Let's have a look. You know what? Florent de Rubin. I thought exactly the same thing. Yesterday evening, I was just like, I fired up the save just to make sure I had everything ready. And I'd never looked at the boat before, and I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, do you, like, sail out to where Shinryu is and see and fly? Like, it did make me think a little bit. I literally never paid attention to the boat before. But I couldn't tell. Again, I also couldn't tell if it's just a pier or a boat. But the shape of it, like, it looks like it has a boat shape to me. I reckon they reused the SS Leaky or one of those, surely. They must have been using it. Yeah, I think it is a boat. It's just reusing the start of the underwater battle map. Damn, yeah, Strife is an OG. So Strife would probably maybe even remember the first nose-figured Shinryu battle that I put up. But yeah, so I quote-unquote revived Waka in Farplane Editor, but no. He doesn't appear. That's just the shadows and the shattered pieces of Waka in his head. Yeah, you can actually see in the other angle there, I don't know if you saw it briefly, you can see the mechanism propeller, I don't know what you call it. There you go. So in the different shots, if you look closer, you can see it is it's the boat. So that's pretty cool. Like, we're so hopeless now, we're just looking around and kind of investigating what else we can see in the map. But yeah, I think Carifian earlier on said something along the lines of, like, if there was some kind of way to... Oh god, she doesn't have an overdrive again. Theoretically kind of manipulate the eraser move so it doesn't work as intended, but obviously that such a thing doesn't exist in the game. The nice thing about Nose-Figured Shinryu is that he's so unabashedly ridiculous, I don't think anyone was misled in actually spending too much time trying him. Yeah, I don't think there's that many people who've probably had more attempts than me. No one's that stupid, I think. I think back then I was kind of in a bit of a anything's possible, but then you kind of realize it's not. There is no like, hey, you can do anything you set your mind to, man. With some things, it's, I think, you become a bit more of a realist over time. Like this isn't even close to being realistic. That's right. So yeah, if Shinryu were beatable, would Nemesis be too? And that's, again, that's part of the reason why we're here. Nemesis actually is beatable. And so that's partly why we're doing this. So after this session, probably next session, we'll get into investigating how we defeat Nemesis. I never actually watched the fight that was uploaded, so the person who basically hacked through Shinryu and then did no Svigrid Nemesis, and they won. I never looked at how they did it. I can see from the thumbnails they used the Mega Sisters. But we'll kind of see. Maybe it's easier than it seems. Maybe it's still a very difficult fight. I really don't know. But we'll find out. Now, we're going to try in the next session. Shinryu needs plenty of reps to really just hammer home the futility. And I still kind of want to see if we can at least get one semi-decent run. We haven't even got off a 4th overdrive yet. That's bad. But you can see that battle theme just coming back. If Yuna could swim, would Aeons make this possible? Yeah, I mean, of course. Yes, because you could use stuff like Anima's Oblivion, you could do this, that, and the other, like it would. Even if Shinryu could eraser your Aeons, collectively they would still do far too much damage. Being able to summon would make this trivial. Is there a place I can see how a No Sphere Good run is done? Yeah, I do have a No Sphere Good run on the channel. I think it was actually... There should be VODs of my Twitch live streams from like 2017. So I do have a No Sphere Grid run already on the channel. So I think if you search No Sphere Grid Dansgo 8, you should probably find it. It should be there somewhere. So I'm sure you can see that one. Can't we just hack in an Aeon or something to see? We probably can, but I think that kind of stuff tends to cause crashes. And especially when live streaming, I kind of don't want to deal with crashes and then trying to set things up again, etc. I'm a bit worried. Might cause issues, so I'd leave that alone. But I mean, basically summon Anima here and just use Oblivion. It's going to do a lot of the work. You've got Mindy's Pasado, you've got their Delta attack, you've just got a lot of different options. So you don't need to... I don't think you need to overthink it too much. Hey NG+, welcome to the stream. It'll probably petrify the Aeons and break the game. Yeah, I mean, the Aeons dying to it is just not a problem, even if, because you've got so many of them. Let's say you summon Anima, you use Oblivion, and then it counterattacks, and then it does Eraser, and it kills it. Then you just summon the next Aeon, and then you continue to go at it. I mean, it's trivial. It's pretty easy after that. Rocket summon balls of the round. Yeah, for me, there's just kind of no point in doing it because it just... Again, as I say with Shinryu, there's kind of no in-between. Either it becomes easy or it's impossible, basically. There's kind of nothing in between. Does that mean that Stone Ward, Stoneproof, and Ribbon would make it 5%? Unfortunately not. As I said, Eraser doesn't follow the rules of the game. It's its own special thing. Just like Dark Anima's Pain is, it's literally, it has its own special kind of flag that ignores whatever protections you put on there. And as soon as that Eraser hits you, it registers a hit, you are dead. And there's no two ways about it. You're dead and shattered. Evasion. I think the accuracies that there's no evasion for it. There's no like stat for it hitting in that sense. So basically Shinryu is cheating. Basically, I mean, there's not really many... Oh shit, we run out of Phoenix Downs. I think we did. Oh well. If an attack has 255% to inflict a status, it completely bypasses even checking if the target has any resistance. In this case, it's 255% plus always the same. The reason I use the word always is because that's what P. Birdman uses next to it. In his Ultimate Companion Guide, it just has, I think it just has petrification always. And so it does always mechanically just equal 255%. Okay, fine. Yeah, it's the same thing. Zimad Doc. Shinryu was the hardest one to solo. When I did the Tide Zone challenge because it raised me before I had time to... Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're trying to solo with Tidus, obviously you kind of have to... It's the same game, really. It doesn't change too much. You have to use your Blitz Ace, survive the counter, and then hope it doesn't use a Razor. Like, you need, what, 3 Blitz Aces? Yeah, 2. Yeah, you'd need 3. But it's far more achievable than what we're trying to do. So no point hacking 4 ribbons into an armor. Yeah, no. Because I think that the key point there is that it says it bypasses even checking. So it's just not interested. Like, whatever you have on your armors, whatever preparations you have, it just doesn't care. It's just saying this is what's going to happen, and you're going to deal with it. And that's why the whole thing about, like, if it had an elemental strike to it, and you had a null, the fact that it would actually nullify Eraser is really funny, because imagine an attack that powerful that ignores all of your checks and all of that kind of stuff. But if it had an element attached to it, you could bypass it with something as simple as just having the SOS null of that element, because that would be almost like a bit of a reverse card where the game would say, before you even get to check, I'm going to nullify the fact that your attack even hit. So there's no point checking anything. So in that sense, the mechanics around it are really fascinating. But obviously there's just no way to ever benefit from anything like that. Imagine if, on the other hand, they had Eraser cost 50 MP each, Shining cost nothing, Shinryu only had 100 MP, and you could drain it. Yeah, that would be crazy. Like, those are the kind of things that, back when I was attempting it more seriously, I always kind of hoped that there was something like that that we were missing. Just some weird thing that, I don't know, like you say, like, you could drain its MP, and if you drained it enough, it wouldn't use Eraser, or something like that. But, like, you know, maybe Shinryu was one weird case where it happened to have MP, but it just never told you. And so if you drained it, then it would stop it and stuff like that. But while I was thinking about those things and always coming up short, I was still kind of trying the fight here and there. But never came up with anything, as we can see. I would like to get, like, one stage better here than I have so far. Literally, I think my 3rd attempt, Waka managed to get a 2nd overdrive, and that's been as far as we've got so far. Too bad you can't just steal from him and he just falls apart. I'm just annoyed that Doom is such a large number. I kind of wish Doom was like... I wonder what number Doom would have to be before you'd start to think, maybe? Still, I think it would have to be like 30. 25, 30 before you'd probably consider it. Because again, it would have to be less than the amount of turns you think you would need. But I guess the thing about that is you'd have a chance of surviving some of the Shinings, so that would also play in your favor. Is there a way to manipulate Doom counter? I wonder. In Final Fantasy Farplane editor. Let me have a quick look. Kind of curious. Yeah, you can actually. What's even the strat here? But that's generally what we're discussing, but the widely accepted strat that is very, very simple, but also basically impossible to win with is just Riku pumps out trio of quad 9 and you try to keep using your overdrive as much as you can, and you pray to the gods that Shinryu basically only ever uses his claw attack in response, and that's kind of all there is to it. And that's why the fight is very simple, but also very impossible at the same time, because, as I say, through all these years, we've never really come up with anything better because of the parameters we have for this one. I think what we can start to play with soon is just seeing how many turns we can even survive. Where we can maybe switch Wakazama to something where we can make him a bit more of a, at least survive one Shining hit, and then kind of see what happens from there. Riku to use Hyper Mighty Guard after trio. No, like I think if you're gonna win, there is no Hyper Mighty Guard in this one because, oh wow, they actually used attacks for a change. Damn. Wow. Yeah, basically Hyper Mighty Guard, because it has a lot of delay as well, you're kind of just delaying the inevitable. It's yeah, it would just be you're throwing away too many turns. By the time you get another turn and then you're able to use trio again, the chances of you having even survived those turns is very, very low. So I don't think so. I love watching people do crazy challenges in 5 pounds. Send the kind of challenge I don't bother doing. Yep. This is a challenge that I also don't bother doing. I haven't for a very, very, very long time. But for your amusement today, I kind of did it differently. Now, this is interesting because I think this is the first time since we started that after using our 2 overdrives, it only used physical attacks. Right? I think that's the first time this has happened. Even that's pretty, like... That's been bad RNG. That should be like a 1 in 9, no? Wow. Yeah, it's the first time. But, as I've been saying, so that's like, we got quote-unquote perfect RNG to start this fight this time. But we kind of didn't, because Riku was one of the ones that got hit with those physical attacks. So this is why, again, when I started looking at it a bit deeper, you look at that number like, oh, you know, it's 30 times it needs to use attack, but that's just not, it's just not true, because here, right now, there's absolutely nothing you can do. You can't contribute to this fight right now. You have no trio, and because you're in no sphere grid, you just can't do any damage. There's nothing possible here for you. And so you're forced to wait until Riku gets another turn. And so that means that we have to face 2 more Shinryu attacks now, hoping that Riku even gets a chance to use trio. So now there's another 1 in 9. So there's a 1 in 81 chance here of Riku even getting her next turn. So you see what I'm saying? Like, it just gets ridiculous very, very quickly. And obviously, again, Shining is not good enough. It's a shame, man. Like, if Shining was a little weaker and you could, like, there's a little bit more you could do. Like, it's not like too far away from being survivable to some degree, but it's just a little bit out of reach to make it useful. It's a big shame. Have you heard the news about potential Final Fantasy 13 remake? No, I haven't, to be honest. But I hear potential news about remakes every other week. So, as I always say, like, wake me up when Square Enix themselves announces something. Until then, I'm just not interested in the rumors. Why would they remake Final Fantasy 13? Start with 13-2, everyone's favourite. Unfortunately, nowadays, my least favourite of the trilogy. I put Lightning Returns above it. No worries, G Mercado. Thanks for joining us anyway. We still have plenty of utility to go before we end today. I might be spouting nonsense, but can you enter the fight in critical HP and have SOS haste? Yeah, you can. But again, the problem here is that once you get killed, there is a delay associated with when you get your next turn. And in that sense, like your SOS, your haste won't help you from what I know. So like having haste in this fight for your attackers is just not actually that beneficial at all. If it never did the counter attacks, then obviously that would also be something pretty different. But since everybody has first strike, as Karifian said, you already come in on basically tick 0 and you start the fight as quickly as is possible, and then after you get killed anyway, like having haste just doesn't matter that much, unfortunately. Basically, haste is only useful if you're surviving after your turn. If you're getting killed every single time after you use your turn, then having haste is actually not that useful. (13-2) is a good game. I never said it was a bad game. I just said it's my least favorite of the trilogy. For me, it's like it's on the borderline of where good begins for me. I wouldn't give it any more than that. (13-2) was hell to play on PC though. Yeah, the optimization was not good. Also, I guess since we're here and we're live streaming, I think a lot of you guys would probably watch that type of content. I mentioned a while back that we are going to eventually enter the Danzo 8 ranking / tier list era for Final Fantasy, now that I've finished all of the mainline games, the single player games on the channel. And so what kind of tier lists or rankings would you guys like to see? I haven't done anything yet. I haven't planned anything. I haven't recorded anything. But eventually I will get to it. I'm just very busy at the moment. But I feel like I've earned the right to start making that type of content now. I've made 5,000 videos and I've played through all of the Final Fantasy games. So I feel like I deserve to make my bit more clickbaity / controversial / engagement baiting tier list / ranking videos. So yeah, if anyone has any tier list / ranking suggestions, definitely send them my way. It's endless, obviously you could basically do whatever, but I'm wondering if there's any other than the most obvious, like rank your favorite Final Fantasy games. Like other than that, if anyone has anything interesting, fun, you can definitely think about it. I feel like this fire has been broken down as much as it possibly can. It's just an RNG fest. Yeah, pretty much. It would either take an absolute miracle of RNG, or it would take a miracle of discovery, basically, to discover something about this fight and its mechanics that was not known, or just like hidden even in the game's data somehow. Rank the best super bosses, of course. I like it. I think that's a good place to start. Could definitely do something like that. Tier list of the Final Fantasy hotties. There's too many Final Fantasy hotties of a very questionable / legal age for someone who's 33 now. So that I would have to limit that list, and it would be probably not as interesting for a lot of people. So I think I'll steer away from the waifu conversation. Tier list of coolest weapons. Okay, interesting. I'll definitely have a look back through this stuff when I'm thinking about the list. Yeah, exactly. So you have people like Riku who are 15. Either there's some people who don't know that, or they kind of know, but like, yeah, it's a video game, I don't care. And things get murky, and they're not the kind of things I'd want to get into on the channel. Warren Quotes tier list. Hey, that's a good one. He has so many. Maybe just Final Fantasy quotes. Final Fantasy 10 quotes tier list. Start with that, maybe. I think the problem with you can go real niche. I think with that one, it's kind of like if it goes too niche, then I feel like I don't have enough of an opinion or knowledge about it, and I'd have to research my tier list, and I feel like that, to some degree at least, defeats the purpose. I think for a lot of them, I will just have to look back over things. So let's say, I don't know, I do Final Fantasy Final Boss tier list. That one I over the years, because it's taken me so long to play through all of them, obviously there's some of them I barely remember what even happened in them. So I'd have to kind of go back a little and have a look at their designs, the music, what happened in the fight, all of that kind of stuff. But like, if it gets into something like really niche, then it might be a bit too much for that, so we'll see. Best world building and aesthetics ranked. Aeon's tier list, that's a good one as well. Hey Nico, yes, this is indeed live. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you. Yeah, I think summons can be like a bit of a across the whole series thing, but again, one of the main reasons I'm wondering how to do the tier list is because, especially for a game like Final Fantasy, if you try to do it across the whole series, there's just so many. So like, if you did Final Fantasy summons, there's so many of them, the video would be incredibly long. Let's fire off this third overdrive anyway to equal our best run. If I can actually hit it here. I have missed a couple. There we go. So I think for summons, maybe top 10s are better than a tier list, because like if you look at them across the entire series, there's just so many summons. And sometimes the iterations are different enough to kind of for them to warrant their own thing, and the video would be like 3 hours long if I was trying to do every single summon and try to put them in a tier list. So I'd have to be careful with that one. Something really meaningless would be funny, like by the best font. That's pretty funny, actually. Maybe I'll make an April Fool's tier list where I just do a tier list for something really silly. So yeah, we equaled our best record. Let's go. Anyone know when Echo 9 for Final Fantasy 9 will be out? I'm kind of personally a bit invested in that one as well, because I want to make a Final Fantasy 9 movie version using it once it comes out. I decided for that particular one, I'll kind of come out of retirement for one time and just make a movie version of it, because it's like the one missing thing, I think, from the list of Final Fantasy movies I wanted to have. And I have enjoyed what they've done so far with the voiceover mod that they've made. So once it comes out, I think there's a chance I'll make a Final Fantasy 9 movie. Minigame tier list, yep, I think that's a good one. I think that can definitely work. Final Fantasy logo tier list, that's also a good one. So artsy stuff I think could be good. Blitzball players, that's also a good one. It's niche, but if there's any community on the internet that would probably enjoy a Blitzball player tier list, I think it's you guys, so that could work. Mod tier list, oh boy. Carithian's S tier, that's all I'm saying. Even though in this sense he's a guest mod, he's not part of like the core 24/7 stream modding and a Spear Unplugged squad. By virtue of the mod of his that I'm playing through, and the fact that he's basically there every premiere, I wanted him to kind of be more visible and have a bit of power in those premieres in case he needed to do something. So yeah, he's a guest mod, but he's S tier. A Sid tier list, I like that as well. That is a good one. Favorite NPC. Tier list of the best old people. You know what? That's actually weirdly good. I always kind of complain a bit about that there's not enough like older people in Final Fantasy, like in terms of protagonists. I feel like they always kind of just reserve the old people for just like specific roles. And so I guess for Final Fantasy we have to make old over 30. Because like otherwise there's just not enough characters, but I think best old people's kind of good. What would be you guys' cut off for old people in Final Fantasy? Where would you draw the line on in Final Fantasy though? Maybe not in real life, but like legit, it's like 35 is basically old. Like 30 or 35 is old. Maybe 35, 21. 26. Please make it. I'm seeing a lot of 30s. Oh man, that feels terrible. It's a 33 roll. But for Final Fantasy, I agree with you, I think. I would say 30 is probably the cutoff. Because I feel like those in their 20s, they're not projected as being old in the game. Like, yes, they're sometimes the more mature characters in the game, but I think, if being honest, most characters in their 20s, they're still, even in Final Fantasy, they're still pretty youthful in the game. Plot twist tier list is easy. Durran is the top of the list, and that's it. He's in his own category. That's all you need to know. End of list. My headcanon's that Auron's 45 and Lulu's 32. Yeah, Lulu's, yeah, she's like 22 going on 35, I think. Battle theme tier list, that's a good one. That's going to be one for the content ID system to have a field day on, but I think for that one video, I'll probably deal with the consequences. I definitely need to do some soundtrack stuff. How old is Laguna at the end of Final Fantasy VIII? That's a good question. I swear Laguna's not that old either. Best typos. Starting / iconic weapon tier list. I think for a lot of those it's a little bit difficult because like the earliest Final Fantasies, like come on, like how many iconic weapons are there from like Final Fantasy 6 backwards? I feel like most people wouldn't even know what they are or think that they're iconic. I think the only thing with some of these lists is that like they'd be very like 7 and onwards heavy. So if there's any lists like that that's still interesting anyway, I might kind of just discount certain Final Fantasies from them. It doesn't necessarily always have to be like 1 to 16 or something. It's funny that Final Fantasy XII's Barsh is older than Final Fantasy X's Auron. Really? Is he? How old is Barsh? Laguna's 44. He looks good. Hey, Laguna breaks the mold. He's actually a guy in his 40s in a Final Fantasy game who looks young. Funny mistranslation tier list. I think that would be a good one, but I just don't know enough of them. I'd have to do a ton of research. I don't know if like Final Fantasy Union has some kind of video on Final Fantasy mistranslations and I can use that as a guide. I don't know enough of them. Best Final Fantasy insults. That's pretty funny actually. It's just like some of these, like they just require so much digging through because I'm sure there's some really good ones. But I'd have to dig through like the scripts of the games and reread so much of the stuff. It would take me just hours and hours and hours to research like the best insult because I just know for a fact I would miss so much. Like there's actually a lot of good ones in the early Final Fantasy games as well that I just probably wouldn't remember. No worries, Alicia. See you next time. Take care. Does anyone know how old Final Fantasy VI's Cyan is? Yeah, Strago was that's why I was always a big fan of him. He was actually like a playable party member who's an old dude, which I thought was pretty cool. Are you doing a personal game of the year? No, not really. Honestly, I just don't play enough games to do that. My personal game of the year was Astro Bot, for the record. Yes, over Rebirth. It was my favorite experience of the year, I would say. I think it just blew me away. Like I just wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. So I had to, for me, Astro Bot was the game of the year. Rebirth second, Silent Hill 2 third. But for me, I just don't play enough of the new releases, so I don't have enough of an opinion, I think, overall. But of the ones I played, I think that's what I would say. Pete the Player, wow. welcome to the stream. Now, we were talking about OGs, that Pete is one of the absolute... It doesn't get more OG than Pete. Pete was around when I had like 20 subscribers or something. He's true OG. Thanks for joining us. Once upon a time, he was quite interested in Final Fantasy X challenges too, but then I think he transitioned more into like speed running, and I think Crash Bandicoot games are his forte. Yeah, I did think the title and thumbnail of this video would bring a few extra people out. It's all in the name. It's all in the name and in the thumbnail. That's just how it works. Well, there you go. You found the channel because of No Sphere Grid Shinryu test fight. It's just funny looking back on it, like knowing what I know. I'm like, that video like didn't even need to exist. I think I was at the time there was a bit of a debate about is there absolutely any way that using Doom would be a good idea, and so I think I uploaded like both methods or something, and then I was like, or should I use slice and dice versus blitz saves? Like nowadays I'm just like, no, like this is the only strat. There is no other way based on everything we know. Hey Lunaleska, welcome to the stream. See you. Yeah, everyone thinks there's no Sphere with Dark Anima carrying the channel. It's actually Shinryu. But this is also why like No Sphere with Dark Anima is actually quite a fun fight, because it's so much more open-ended and there's so many more like decisions to be made. It's a way more like dynamic an interesting battle. Like attempting No Sphere Dark Anima was always a lot more fun as well, because I felt like there's obviously much more give and take in terms of how the battle can go. Like yes, of course it's massively RNG in the end, but a lot of it is about decision making and doing the right thing at the right time and that kind of thing. So that one's a fun one to even just experiment with and just waste away hours just fighting. And so that's why it's a great fight at the same time. And so this one is one of those where I'm like, even if this were more possible, like let's say not the stupid numbers that we've been kind of roughly calculating, like quintillions and trillions and all of that stuff, but let's say it was less odds than that. Let's say it was millions. Let's say we were talking about like it's a 1 in 5 million fight. Like I just wouldn't do it, because the fight itself is just very boring. And it's just not, there's nothing going on here. And unfortunately, there's nothing more you can do about it. And so, as I say, I'll show you guys this for a sesh, and we'll just have some fun, and we'll chat, and we'll hang out. But in terms of like committing to it and being like, yeah, like SNSG 24 or whatever, like it's just not a thing. I wouldn't ever do it because it's pointless. All-out attack is the only way for this fight, and it's completely over the moment Shinryu uses Erase or Shining. There's just no way, realistically, yeah. Exactly. I'm kind of sad that we didn't at least get to land 4 overdrives one time. That kind of would have been nice. Hey Saul, good job on finishing up the 100%. GG's. This will take 1 particular try. But hey, if anyone wants to be a hero, then you're more than welcome to enter this challenge. Throw down and see if you can beat this challenge. I mean, you'd be a fool, but you're welcome to try. But the only way I would ever accept it is if someone was live streaming it the way I was, and I was seeing them kind of rattle through the attempts in real time and seeing all of the like erasers and shinings and all that stuff, and then the attempt came, I'd be more inclined to believe it. But if someone just uploaded a video saying that this is what happened, then still no. It's because there would be no way of knowing. Like if I uploaded a video tomorrow and I said I've defeated No Sphere with Shinryu, and you saw a fight and you saw like Shinryu use attack 40 times in a row, I could have so easily done that like manipulated that somehow in the background and presented it as if it happened just by pure RNG, you would just never know. And so it's just, videos are not good enough. I think you got to live stream it, you got to see the attempts, like you've got to really, like the burden of proof is very, 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 very heavy on this one because it's so pointlessly difficult. So honestly, at that point, it's not fun. There's no strategy or skill involved. It just lets you use a strat. Yeah, exactly. And that's why Dark Anima No Sphere of Good was always the fight. I didn't spend too much time praying for Shinryu's success. Alright, Karifian says, I'll try to calculate the actual chances of winning. For simplicity, I'll just assume that everyone gets their first turn after revival, after 2 more Shinryu turns. I don't care enough if that's right or wrong. I think that gets us in a good enough ballpark for the sake of coming up with a semi-accurate number for what kind of realm the probabilities lie in. Yeah, so I mentioned that... Actually, wait, did we get... I was looking at the chat, did we just get some good RNG there? That was 2 physical attacks, right? And Riku gets a turn. Wait, was this the one in 81 that we just pulled off here? You should wait until attempting the super bosses of the earliest games. Yeah, it's a shame because for Final Fantasy 1 and 2, I think the only super bosses I haven't fought are the ones in 1 and 2. The rest of them I pretty much fought everything, I'm pretty sure, because I did the GBA versions of the other games, like 5 and 6. So I have those, but I think 1 and 2 are the only ones missing. But for that one, because I'd need to play through the other version that I didn't, I don't really think I want to invest in starting from scratch and building up a save just to fight the super boss. So we'll kind of see. Okay, so yeah, we are currently on perfect RNG for the first time, I think, roughly speaking. So now we're going to do another trio. It's funny, this is like, I'm starting to run out of trio of quad 9s now. Don't worry, I won't survive long enough for it to run out. So yeah, we're going to do this, and then we have to hope that Shinryu turns its attention back to Riku. So we need a physical attack on Riku. See, Eraser on Waka. There you go. So that was my 1 in 81 attempt, and it got completely voided. So it sounds to me like it's 1 out of 8.6 times 10 to the 28. Those are the type of numbers that I think seem about right. And that's the perfect loop sequence. Like absolutely nothing would go wrong in that attempt. So it's kind of ironic. I had a perfect RNG start and I actually did worse than my best. Should have switched in Darren. Yeah, what even is 10 to the 28? Is someone mentioned quintillion? I'm not very good with those numbers. Beyond like trillion. I don't know what they are. Quadrillion, quintillion, all that kind of stuff. Septillion, reptilian, I don't know what it is. But yeah, the numbers that you're seeing Karifian share, like those numbers are the closest to being correct, basically. About 86 octillion. Cotillion was close. I mean, just flip the 2 letters around. You got it. And yeah, sextillion is, yeah. I think it's like 6 sets of 000s or something is sextillion. I don't know. My brain hurts. But yes, those are the odds that you're looking at for this fight. Basically the cotillion, yes. Would the Final Fantasy minigame tier list be how bad they are or how difficult they are? Depends on what type of difficulty it is. Not all difficulty is built the same. I think I'd try my best to kind of, if it's difficult, but it's a more fun type of difficulty, then sure. Like for me, Blitzball's more fun when it's difficult, for example. So the numbers, Dan, what do they mean? Exactly. So that Kevin, the software tester. So there is a chance. Yes, there is. There is a chance. But what I can do is, I think after this attempt, we can start to have a look at. I can try to use Farplane to control Shinryu and start to show you guys what this would actually look like if we could pull it off. But that's why I think for this one, I think it's fair to say that it's impossible. It's not one of these, well, no, there's actually a 1 in 86 octillion chance. It's impossible. Like, it's, to me, like there's basically no practical difference between those two things. Yeah, I'm sure there's some kind of like naming system for such situations where it's, you know, it might be called functionally impossible, yeah, whatever it is. Thanks to you, I finally enjoyed Blitz in the game and willingly played it for Walker's real weapon. Nice. Blitzball's a good game. It's a good minigame. It's a minigame, it's also part of like the story, it's part of the character's background, all of that kind of stuff. I think it's one of the greatest. It's almost not a minigame, really.